Hi everybody, this is Leo Vlant with part 2 of 4 of my The White Light Paramahamsa Swan Dream series. So yeah, let's get started. Well, before we discuss the meaning of this particular dream, I think we should start off by discussing just how one goes about doing dream work. I've talked to a lot of people about dreaming, and many don't really seem very familiar with the terrain, and often they're far more passive in their dreams than I think they ought to be. Describing their dreams as being acted out all around them, with themselves being mostly only like spectators. But I can understand why people might be passive, because, well, being an active player in dreaming does have its difficulties. Because often it's difficult to know what to do. Yeah, sometimes you may start off in a dream with an awareness of the situation and enough working dream memory to make sense of things. But often that's not the case, and it's more like you just plop down in a dream without knowing what the situation is, what your persona role is supposed to be, or who anybody else is. But still somehow you're supposed to be able to figure it all out. But yeah, over time and with practice, you get more and more comfortable with appraising dream situations by their context and by picking up on plot clues and social cues. And then you do the best you can with what you have to work with, just like in real life. So yeah, every dream is like a test of your adaptability. And you can think of it like you're being graded on your performance and the choices you make. So I've come to feel that dreams are not so much about dream interpretation and what they mean as they're about finding out how you respond to different life circumstances and what kind of person you'd be from situation to situation. And the dreams don't predetermine that. You're making dream-changing choices with every move you make, every word you speak. And yeah, in the short term, it is difficult to know whether your choices are right or wrong. Only over time can you really be sure where the trends in your behavior are leading. But if you stay committed to your dream work, trying to do your best, then it will make you a better person. And no, I'm not saying that I'm such a wonderful person because of all the dream work I've put in, but I can tell you I'm better than what I would have been. So okay, now that we can place this dream into the context of being part of a continuing dream work, well, what kind of understandings can we get from this white light dream? Now, yeah, the dream came in 2 parts, so let's start by looking at the first part, before it went lucid. Okay, so what I'm thinking here is that we should focus on the girl. Yeah, who doesn't like girls, right? And yeah, if we decide to make a generalized symbol out of her, well, then it seems like she's been in my dreams before. And that seems to be a characteristic of how I know it's her. She's the girl whom, whenever I see her in a dream, I think I've seen her before. Sort of an archetypical girl. That's to say, she's always a young female character with important lines and consequential actions. Anyway, there was one past dream with that same symbolic girl that presents a good example of making a wrong dream choice. Doing something one regrets and that one wishes one could take back. Yeah, an oops kind of moment. It was a dream I had years after this white light dream, but it shows our girl in action and might help us to establish her archetypical character. Yeah, in that dream, I call it my bad decision dream, the girl was in uniform, which isn't odd for any of my dreams because I was once in the army, and so that uniform motif pops up again and again for me. It's the same as with the university. In dreams I keep finding myself going back to school a lot. So yeah, this bad decision dream began with she and I sharing a taxi this time, instead of a bus. During the ride we didn't speak and she kept to herself, but as I said already, I recognized her from before. And though I remain puzzled concerning any of the prior details, when the cab finally stopped to drop us off, it was in front of the largest building I'd ever seen. More broad and expansive than just being tall. And well, she seemed in a hurry to get to a meeting or something, all while I was still just standing there, looking around, wondering what I was even there for. But seeing that she was about to go her separate way, well, I couldn't let her walk out of the dream scene like that. And yeah, it's here I gotta explain something. In dreams, when a character goes out of your sight, you know, when you can't see them anymore, such as by walking through a door or even just around a corner, well, that's an effective stage exit, and they're already gone, and there's no finding them after that, no matter how hard you look for them. If you ever do see them again, it's because they came back looking for you. But yeah, before the girl could make it out of my sight, I made the decision to open up to her about our previous acquaintance, or as much of it as I could guess about. So I told her I knew we'd met before, but I couldn't remember where or when, or even whether we hit it off or not, but that the past was past and now is now, and so why not just let me have your phone number and we could take another roll of them dice and see if things play out better for us this time. Yeah, smooth, huh? Yeah, I know how stupid you all must think that sounds because, well, everybody knows that phones don't even work in dreams. Yeah, it's new technology and our collective dream minds haven't had a chance to digest any of that yet. You know, the collective dream mind is still struggling with the automobile. But yeah, what else was I supposed to say to the girl? You know, we all know what asking for a phone number really means, right? But yeah, she stood there and she listened to me. But then it's like she decided to not even acknowledge a single word I said. She just turned and walked briskly through the building's big swinging doors and effectively did her stage exit out of my dream. But then the dream segued to later. I was in that same huge building, apparently some kind of administration building, and since I hadn't figured out where I needed to go yet, I was standing off to the side in a lobby, reading directories on the wall, hoping to catch a clue. When I saw her about to walk past, still seeming in a hurry to get to that meeting. Well, the one thing I did know for an absolute certainty was that I'd already been brushed off, and so I mustered up enough discretion to just stand back and pretend to be invisible and project no more presence than if I had been a potted plant. But she saw me anyway. She looked at her watch and decided she had a few seconds for me, and suddenly her hands were full of religious medals. You know, like what the Catholics wear, each one granting the protections and patronage of some angel or saint. Then she said, "Here, take these," and dropped them into my upturned hands. Some of them were even gold. And then she turned and continued on to that ever-beckoning staff meeting of hers. Well, then the fog engulfing my dream memory cleared enough that I could remember at least one dream where I'd seen her before. She was Our Lady, the Blessed Virgin Mary, Queen of Heaven. So yeah, the line between archetypical girl and matriarchal earth goddess can be a bit blurry. But anyway, not long before this making all the worst choices dream, I dreamt of being up to her palace in heaven, and I'd seen her there. Although, yeah, it was her in her more mature Queen of Heaven persona, looking like a healthy 48 with her hair just beginning to gray. You know, older but still the same. Her attire had been more modern than medieval and more workaday than ceremonial. I remember her outfit being in tones of matte silver and gray, almost blue. Her crown was minimalist, you know, just enough to say queen without a sparkle or glimmer more. So yeah, it all seemed really dialed back, and this whole venue had a business hours feel to it, like she was there to work and not to dazzle. So I started to look around to see what the accepted behavior mode was. It seemed to be quiet, attentive respect, and I picked up the vibe coming from the attending angels that met my eye, that any kind of worship or devotion would have been way out of place for the present. Yeah, her palace here, from the inside, appeared to be a huge white marble dome. She was standing under the center on just a flat marble floor, patterned in white and black. No throne, which gave her the freedom to turn about and place her attention in any direction, while the petitioners were supposed to stay close to the surrounding walls. When she wishes to speak to anybody, she just waves them over. Well, after a while, long enough for me to catch on to the protocols, she motioned me to approach, along with two old clerics that she also waved over, each carrying his own large black leather-bound book. She motioned for them to hand the books over to me, and then I was instructed to deliver them to a young scholar down here below, and then I was dismissed. One of her attending angels thought to help me and told me of the most expeditious technique for astral travel I've ever heard, which he suggested I use in order to quickly dispatch my present errand. The trick, he told me, was to make myself very still. Yep, that's what he said, very still, and just have the intention to already be where I want to go. And then I'd be there. And yeah, poof, I was already there. It's a cool trick, huh? The young man was with friends, and so it didn't seem like the best time to talk to him about how Our Lady Queen of Heaven commissioned these books just for him so he could use them to save the world. So I told him, "Here, you should know what to do with these." Yeah, is anybody thinking what I'm thinking, that maybe I might have really screwed that up? It's, what if he was a real person dreaming and thought it was just another stupid dream because nobody told him anything different? I might have at least said, "Excuse me, this is very important. May I have a moment of your time?" And, take him aside and tell him what's what, and, that I'm a messenger from heaven assigning him a very important mission. But, well, I didn't. And so we can only hope that he had the intuition to figure that out for himself. Or maybe it was for the best that I didn't bother him with the details. After all, that young man wasn't chosen for being stupid. And these were really impressive looking books, bound in black Spanish leather with pages gilded in gold. So he'd have to have been a total idiot not to be curious about them, right? And no, I didn't see myself in any mirror, but maybe I looked the part of a divine messenger. Heck, I'd just been up to heaven, hadn't I? And so I must have met the dress code up there, right? And then we'd also need to consider that if I didn't push him, then he'd be free to believe himself to be self-motivated, which might be better under the circumstances. You know, if I told him he was on a divine mission, then he might go around talking about having some divine authority. And well, wouldn't people just think that's crazy? And besides, the way I think that dream would work is that the wisdom from those books would pass into him. You know, nobody wakes up in the morning laying next to a couple big fat books from dreamland, do they? And so I think the knowledge imparted by those books would shine by its own light, right? So he'd automatically take it seriously, wouldn't he? And besides, if Our Lady had wanted the job to be done right, well, she would have picked somebody else besides me to do it, wouldn't she? So apparently she wanted it done the way I'd do it. And that's exactly how it got done. So yeah, that makes it another mission accomplished, and I melted myself away. But yes, in that handful of religious medals dream, while she was much younger, still that was the same Our Lady as I saw in the heavenly palace. And you know, about the same thing happened to me before in another dream, though the older lady was not in a palace in heaven, and the girl had been a whole lot younger. In that dream, I was on a college campus, and with me was this perfectly sweet, lovely little girl, not more than 5 or 6. I didn't know whether we were students or staff, but we weren't going to any classes. No, we were going from office to office, from department to department, from meeting to meeting, with me holding her little hand all along the way. You know, she really was a little girl, and so you have to hold hands, don't you? And you know, little girls, if you don't reach down for their hands, they just be reaching up for yours, right? And so it wasn't like I could forget, we held hands. But yeah, she certainly didn't need help speaking for herself, though, and well, I wasn't sure whether I was escorting her or she me. But yeah, when the end of the day came, I mean the end of the dream, well, I was saying my goodbyes and telling her how charmed I had been. It's when she suddenly became an old woman. Yeah, still beautiful with her eyes and smile exactly the same. And she told me the pleasure had all been hers. Yeah, it was a really sweet dream, and I never did figure out what it was supposed to mean. So, okay, where does that bring us back to? Well, back to that I made a terrible mistake dream. Yeah, it was really embarrassing for me when I realized it. You know, asking for a phone number and all. You know, effectively I tried hitting on the Blessed Virgin, right? Yeah, oops. But don't think this is something that could only happen to an idiot like me. Our Lady is actually a common archetype, you know, a subset of the goddess archetype, and she can cross religious lines simply by going by different names and appearances. And unless you're an accomplished scholar in comparative religions, well, she'd probably just look the same to you as any other dream girl, right? You know, she fooled me, didn't she? But yeah, somehow you still have to get used to recognizing her so that at least you know when to behave appropriately, right? Or you can simply behave appropriately toward everyone in your dreams. And that'd be good practice for real life too, wouldn't it? A good example of this kind of thing is given to us by the medieval code of chivalry. You know, in the subsection on women where they are respected as ideals. Really, it's a mistake to believe that time inevitably brings progress and that today is necessarily better than days gone by. The high medieval culture from the golden age of Christendom. You know, about the time of Saint Bernard during the 12th century or so. Well, it was actually far more spiritual than our present age of materialistic decadence today, don't you think? But yeah, a couple years after that terrible, terrible mistake dream, I met this same girl archetype again in another dream, and again she was in uniform, but this time she was just a bit older. She had gotten a promotion or two, and now she was my commanding officer. Our unit had just been decommissioned, and all her personnel were being reassigned, and so before shipping out, I was in her office giving her the "I'm proud to have served under you" speech, when she interrupted me to tell me that we'd served together again in the War of 22. Yeah, that sounds ominous, doesn't it? But yeah, put that aside for a moment and take note of this. It's important that this was the same girl as the one from the bus. You know, the one with the correct moral insights and courageous leadership, who made a deal with me with her eyes. And the next thing I knew, I was having the most intense lucid dream of my life. And yeah, I always felt grateful to her for that. So, well, maybe that's why I tried to ask her out. You know, before I remembered who she was and that I was supposed to be able to behave myself better than that. Well, that's it for part 2, and now on to part 3 of my 4-part series. Yeah, in part 3, we'll try to make sense of the lucid part of the dream. You know, what the white light means and what the swan symbolizes, and why any of that would have anything to do with me. Oh, and I'll give you a hint that it may mean I'm enlightened, but being enlightened might not mean what you think. But that might just be my own intuition speaking. But yeah, thanks everybody. And now let me go. I gotta start shooting part 3.